time, people think that you have to settle for clients who will pay you $200 a month, maybe even $500 a month. And that seems exciting to you, but there's more to it than just that. And so the reason I bring that up is because I just see a lot of misinformation in the fitness business space when it comes to really the right way to do this. And so let's get started. So what we're focused on over the next 3 days is how you can actually sign EQUINOX quality clients who are excited to pay you $5,000 to $10,000 plus per package. And I know this sounds crazy to some people, but I'm sure that doesn't sound like a terrible idea. So let me know, is that something you'd like? Drop in the comments. I'd really be curious to see, of everyone on here, what is your average contract value per client right now? Drop that in the comments. And how would you feel from here on out for every single client that you bring in to pay you a minimum of $5,000 for, let's say, a 12-week process, just minimum, right? How would that change your life? And the reason I bring this up is that so many people and so many trainers, so many experts, they really mess up their long-term success by accepting clients who are not the right clients. And I know a lot of the times we think that we have to just bring in whoever, right? Because you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're all over social media, and you're marketing and showing up and doing lives. And you think that those higher level clients are only like dime a dozen or every once in a while, but it's just not true. And so let's dive into it. You are in the right place if, let's say, you want to stop doing Zoom workouts. So if you're doing one-on-one Zoom workouts right now, 3 times a week, $100 a session, maybe you want to attract ideal clients who see you as an expert and they're happy to pay you thousands of dollars to work with you, not just $500 here, $1,000 there, thousands per month to work with you. And you want your clients to get insanely good results on top of it. You're not just trying to charge a lot of money. You want your clients to get the results that you're really, really proud of so that you can market, right? You're not somebody who just wants to do something for the money. But here's the truth. In a perfect world, you want to make a ton of money and you want to get great results. And you want your clients to be like, all right, I signed up at a premium for this person and they changed my life, right? So you want to do all that without having to sacrifice your time to deliver your service. And you want to get paid for your expertise, truly, right? And you see people all over the place. I'm probably one of the only business coaches that are teaching my clients to sell higher than I do sometimes, which is kind of funny, right? And the reason I do that is that you guys don't have to work with everybody, okay? So is everybody with me? Any questions so far? So let's dive into this. Honestly, I see this over and over again. Fitness and health experts are extremely underpaid, right? I really want to change that. And I want you guys to think, how would your life change if you were able to increase your influence and respect as a trainer and a coach, right? It's not just, how can I make more money? How can I get the top 10% of the clients that I really want? So let's kind of talk about why you should listen to me. Just kind of short story. I've spent over $300,000 in my own mentorship. I've hired tons of business coaches. I've learned from a lot of different people, whether it's from people who are outside of my industry completely or people who are very close to what I do. I've seen the good and the bad of both sides. And I think there's some truth to what everyone does. But I think a lot of people haven't really helped high-ticket clients. I've seen people telling their clients to charge $1,000 or $2,000 for 12 weeks and less. And a lot of times when I see that, I just feel like it doesn't come from a place of them doing it first, which is what I really want to shed light on. Second, I grew my in-person training business to over $400,000 a year. That was awesome, but I was absolutely burned out. I was exhausted and I was like, all right, how is this going to be a career that I enjoy long-term, right? And so after that, I transitioned and did my online fitness business, scaled that to $1 million a year. And I absolutely loved it. And it was really cool to see that I worked with really, really awesome people. I had CEOs as clients. I had executives, different entrepreneurs, business owners, and I love my business, honestly. And there's definitely a way to do it. I see a lot of people trying to do a lot of volume when it comes to these businesses, and I just don't think that's the right approach for most. Because you see people who are, scaling their paid ads, and maybe they're getting, $100,000 a month, but they're only keeping about 30% on the fitness side. And I just think that that's probably not the long-term approach for someone who wants premium clients who they actually love. I've helped over 200 plus fitness experts transition online to make anywhere from five, let's say, to 40,000 a month. And the reason I say that is because the truth is not every fitness expert has a goal to build a $1 million business, right? I think it's definitely the dream for some, but most people want to be able to generate $5,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 a month, and sometimes even more. And if they could do that without having to work 80 hours a week, that would be a pretty amazing thing to do. So don't take my word for it. Let's kind of dive into some results, right? Molly, for example, within 6 months of joining our LinkedIn process, she did $24,000 in profit. Worked with a top CEO, from Jack in the Box. I mean, just a really cool experience doing some things that, brand new to LinkedIn and crushed it. We've got Zach, for example, he did $4,800 in sales, 75% of it coming from LinkedIn. So, those are a couple of examples there. Jeremy, I mean, literally zero presence on LinkedIn, $6,000 package, and brand new to it. We have Jaquan. I mean, a lot of these clients have actually done more at this point. I'm just kind of showing their beginning results. But, he had done $15,000, without any experience in LinkedIn as well. We have Taewoo, $5,000 within 90 days of using our methods. And so I want to show you the obvious, ticket price of it and the proof of it, because guys, like, you shouldn't be getting clients at $1,000 for 12 weeks, right? You're told that this is the standard, this is the norm. But the truth is there are plenty of clients, and how much easier would it be to bring in $25,000, $30,000 a month when you're getting $5,000 clients? So who am I? Obviously you see here, there's a picture of me. It's great. But on the right, you also see a client of mine, Vance Owen. He's a Hollywood producer, worked with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, I had access to a lot of these people when I was actually in person. And so I've really experienced like high level clientele. And that's really what gave me insights. Kind of a little backstory. When I started, I realized like the reason this whole process came about is that a lot of my clients weren't actually seeing me in person. So basically this all came about one time when I was at EQUINOX. This client right here, Vance, he pretty much left to Japan for 6 months. And he said, hey, Samim, I'm not going to be seeing you. He already bought a package. And to work with me online, he's like, hey, can you just like give me advice, like check in with me and pretty much like just help me figure out what I need to do when I'm not with you. And I was like, all right, sure. And so he paid for his package in person, never showed up for that. And he just paid me online. And then I started getting referrals and my business really grew. And this is like the craziest thing, but I probably had 20 clients who were traveling like throughout the year. And I realized that there was a big market of clients who didn't really value like Zoom workouts or training in the traditional sense. And it's less about you thinking about the clientele in terms of like, all right, well, let me find somebody who's willing to pay a premium. You're really looking for somebody who needs their time and who values guidance, right? There's a different type of clientele. And so I see a lot of people, their marketing, their language, what they do isn't really set up for that type of client, which is why they're not going to attract that kind of client, if that makes sense. So let's dive into it, kind of the 3 days that we will go into. So day one is going to be the fitness consulting business model. So I want to talk about how to transition from trading your time for money to becoming highly paid as a fitness consultant, right? There's a big difference between being a fitness consultant and being an online fitness coach, right? And the reason I bring that up is that consulting is about showing somebody how to do something, like telling them what to do and giving them a plan. It's not about having to be like on Zoom workouts and having that kind of accountability. It's just different. Day two, we're going to talk about how to position yourself to attract these clients, right? So obviously you need the model first. Second, you need the actual positioning and communication. And then really third, you need the actual LinkedIn process for where to find these customers. And so I really want to talk about that because at the end of the day, you can do everything in the world. You can market, and show up and do lives and create content. But if you don't have the right model, if you aren't communicating like somebody who would speak to an ideal person they're actually looking for, and if you can't find the customers, right, it doesn't really matter. You need all three to make this work. And so, yeah, let's dive into it. So what are you most excited to learn? Drop it in the chat. I want to see kind of what it is that you guys really want to learn today. Obviously, we're going to dive into whatever I have, but would love to see. Drop that in the chat. Let's see. All right, cool. Not seeing anything yet. Oh, there's some. So Caesar said, how do I join LinkedIn? Cool. What else? Give me a few more. All right. So my next question is, who here has already transitioned online? All right, I'm seeing how to start conversations with potential prospects, the system used to monitor clients and LinkedIn and the funnel clients. I see how to attract those high-ticket clients online. Scott said how to package and message. Okay, cool. All right. So let me ask you a question. Where are you getting stuck right now? Of the people here, what is coming up? So I'm seeing lead generation. Cliff said, looking to connect people on LinkedIn so I can get clients on that platform. All right. Anything else? Where are you guys getting stuck with this? Let's see. All right. Let's go on to the old way now. So guys, here's the truth. I'm seeing a lot of people, oh, Jacqueline said pricing. So I'm seeing a lot of people do this. And does this work? Absolutely. Here's the old way. Posting on Facebook timeline and groups. Obviously, we're in a group right now, but looking for these types of clients in Facebook groups, probably not the best long-term place to be. Posting on Instagram, high competition, low buyer numbers, doesn't really feel authentic and real. A lot of times you're trying to create a curated and pretty perception of yourself, which obviously in all marketing, you're trying to create a good perception, but it's not necessarily where those types of clients are. And then let's say the emails and calls, cold emails, calls, DMs, they work to a degree, but you start to burn people out pretty quickly. People get pretty tired of really not having much of a relationship with somebody and just like going all in on that. So all three of these things would be considered the old way. And let me ask you a question. Is this worth it to you, right? You're doing all those things to get a $100 per hour client for most of you, right? Some of you are online, right? So that's not true for everybody, but DMing, posting every single day, being all over the place, more without strategy doesn't necessarily make it really worth it for $100 an hour clients, right? So here's the thing. I see a lot of people say this to me. Well, Sameem, who would pay thousands of dollars for fitness consulting? That's crazy, right? Here's the fact, like, do you see people really going back to gyms as the whole COVID thing has happened in the last couple of years? And maybe if people do come back to gyms or they're more, all over social media, are they going to be looking for the same things, right? So, I just think there's going to be a big shift overall in personal training. And the new model that people are going to value is the fitness consulting side. And so when you're seeing people saying like, oh, who would pay thousands of dollars for coaching? Well, people who don't want to go to a gym, people who don't have a lot of time, who want to work with an expert. There's a certain kind of person who really values that. And so let's dive into it. Some people also say, I'll figure it out myself, right? So I see it all the time where people play a vague numbers game. They don't understand the client first, right? If you've been paying attention to the organic reach lately and any platform, it's been throttled heavily. It's crazy, even LinkedIn, although I'm bringing it up. So LinkedIn strategy has even changed. Even in the last 60 days, we've had a brand new strategy we've had to implement on LinkedIn. And so here's the fact, as much as we have all these different strategies, even in 2022, things are changing. So let's dive into this now. So when it comes down to it, here's just the fact that I see with a lot of coaches: more certifications will not help you build a business you love. More clients, $100 a session, won't make you wealthy. And posting on Instagram to get virtual clients won't give you your time back. So what does that actually mean for you? I think the fact of the matter is the value of collapsing time to learn from an expert. If you want people to pay you high ticket and value as an expert, you have to go first. And if you're here today, my guess is you don't want to continue down the same path. Does that make sense? So I really want you to think about certifications versus actual practical insight, which is why I really believe in mentorship. So let's talk about the new way now. So what we're going to go through is the weekly framework for working 20 hours a week and making $20,000 to $40,000 a month minimum. I want you to go through the actual 5 steps to becoming the best only option for the 10% of premium buyers who want to start immediately. So understand, guys, when it comes down to getting high ticket clients, you have to understand the 5 stages of awareness and marketing. And that doesn't mean that you're just posting constantly. Yes, you are posting, but what is the buyer's journey? What does somebody need to see from you to understand, okay, I have a problem, or I have symptoms of a problem. Now I have a problem. Now, of these problems, what are the actual solutions I believe in, right? And this is where it gets kind of sticky, because you think people are looking at personal training, you're competing there. But really, if you're online, you're competing with Peloton, you're competing with higher level online tools that are the same when it comes to time freedom and giving people the ability to change themselves, if that makes sense. And so beyond that, I want to go over something called identity indicators. So how do you turn a stranger into a raving client who's happy to pay you $5,000 to $20,000 in 48 hours, right? Where do these people exist? And what does it actually take to get that person to do that? So here's the fact. I've discovered a really simple way for people to actually use LinkedIn, right? Obviously, we're gonna get into exactly what the process is, why it works. But first, let's look at some stats and I'll show you the kind of opportunity I'm talking about here. So here's the fact. In the end, I want you guys to all have a proven system for bringing in online fitness clients worth 1 to 3K per month per client, okay? So imagine 10 clients at $1,000 a month is $10,000 a month for 10 hours a week, okay? Think about that. How much easier would your life be? Or if you were better and you were able to raise your rates, $2,000 a month per client. So $20,000 a month for 10 hours per week of work, right? This is the fitness consulting model. Or when you're getting really good, 10 clients at 3K per month. So $30,000 a month for 10 hours a week, right? This doesn't seem possible for a lot of you, but the fact of the matter is, it's because you don't have the clients that are able to afford it, so you don't believe it, right? A lot of times, you have to take an action, see a result before the belief will follow. And when you haven't done it before, you're gonna always view things from your frame of reference. You're gonna say, well, I've only done this, therefore that's crazy. And you don't want to think that way, because that's actually the same reason. If somebody looks at your physique, right? You're a fitness expert, and you look a way that they never thought was possible. They're like, oh, it's just because of steroids, it's just because of this. They come up with all these excuses to why it's not possible. But that's just not true. It's just they've never done it before. And that's the difference between where somebody wants to be and where they are. So here's what's cool. Once you get this down, imagine, let's say half the people continue on with you. So now you already have 5 clients. And let's say you retain half those people. You're able to continue to stack income without having to worry about getting new clients at, let's say, $200 a month, which absolutely drains your time. Does that make sense? So just to kind of go clear on this, higher prices equal high quality of service, more attention, more focus. So when you spread yourself thin, this never works, right? If you look at any big business in the world, the reason that it actually works, like online or anywhere else, is they have a high ticket program of some kind, something is expensive, and they're able to retain people with that price point. So people pay a premium for customization, service, and attention, not for time or information, which is a big shift for a lot of people. So if this seems impossible, totally get it. We're going to go over something that explains EQUINOX versus Planet Fitness. And an EQUINOX buyer is going to value certain things, and everyone looks like, you know, cheap or less valuable compared to you when you position yourself properly, if that makes sense. So let's dive into it. Is this possible? Here is an example of a client of mine, Molly, doing a $10,000 sale from LinkedIn. And so as much as you guys want to think, oh, it's not possible, you know, Molly started off with literally zero experience with this. And after we adjusted her offer a few times, after we adjusted her positioning, she was able to bring a $10,000 paid in full client from LinkedIn. So that's just an example, many more like it, but I want you guys to see this because whatever you've been doing isn't the only way, okay? So let's dive into what this means. So this is an example that I like to use. EQUINOX versus Planet Fitness. When you guys are marketing, you have to ask yourself, are your clients who pay a lot of money, are they avoiding pain, or are they moving towards an ideal identity, right? So let's kind of explain Planet Fitness for a second. The workouts are the same. People are lifting, running, doing yoga, but the experience is different. Planet Fitness, look at their marketing, judgment-free zone. What that means is they're only attracting clients who are literally afraid of being judged. And that's a weird client to attract, right? That's not somebody who knows the value of fitness. Does that make sense? Versus Equinox, which is, it's not fitness, it's life. Look at their two just mottos off the front end. And I want to use this as an example because this is a lot to do with the kinds of clients you attract. I see people all the time using pain-based marketing, and they expect to attract clients who are going to pay them a premium. And it's just not the way it works, because the clients you really want are not sitting there thinking fitness isn't valuable. And I see a lot of people trying to sell the value of fitness to people in pain, which is never going to attract a high ticket client. Does that make sense? So Planet Fitness markets to insecurity and low commitment, and it's never going to attract Equinox quality prices. And so just remember, if you have Planet Fitness marketing, expect to have Planet Fitness clients. It doesn't matter where you are, online or offline. So let's dial into like, what does an Equinox client look for? They look for specific insights around nutrition, training, optimization, efficiency. They're fitness enthusiasts who have specific goals. And so what does this mean? They're not somebody, you know, whenever you talk to people on the phone and you're like, all right, I'm looking for my ideal person. You guys all know the client who's like, this person doesn't really value it. They want something for free. And the reason why is they don't really know what they want, or they've experienced things that make them think that fitness isn't really attainable for them. So what I've noticed is the kind of clients you actually want is they already see fitness as a part of their identity. Somebody who doesn't see that will never pay you a large sum of money for fitness because it's not something they really value. Does that make sense? You don't really have to sell that to an Equinox type of client. Does that make sense? So Equinox quality clients are looking for the right vehicle for specific goals. They're not saying, I don't really know what my goal is. Can you motivate me? That's never the kind of client that is an Equinox quality client. Does that make sense? These kind of clients take responsibility for their results. So they're not coming for you to be like the savior, which is why a lot of you who are marketing to like Planet Fitness clients, but expecting Equinox clients are always going to be disappointed because those kind of people don't really want the same thing. Does that make sense? So ultimately, the kind of client you guys want, they value exclusivity, premium service, privacy, and status. And so if your marketing isn't communicating that, you're not attracting that kind of person. So now let's dive into the Planet Fitness client. Again, they're likely new to fitness or they're inconsistent. It's kind of like not really a value yet. Health and fitness is probably not a part of their identity. Once again, it requires being sold in the value of fitness. So if you ever have somebody you're talking to and they're trying to figure out, is fitness worth my time? You're in front of the wrong client. Does that make sense? They place responsibility outside of themselves or on the gym itself. They often ask for discounts. They're often okay with subpar experiences as long as they're just getting it done. It's more of like it's okay, it's a nice to have, but it's not a need. Whereas the Equinox client, it's more of a need. And their identity, it's cognitive dissonance if they don't get what they want. Does that make sense? But for the Planet Fitness client, it's not cognitive dissonance. They don't really care, but it's just like happy hour for them to work out. So here's the truth. They don't really know what they want. And that's a big deal when it comes down to it. So let me ask you guys a question. Like, what are the kind of clients you want, right? I want to see in the chat, who here knows the kind of client they actually want? Like, do you guys have or want Equinox quality clients, or do you have Planet Fitness clients right now? And guys, just because people even give you a lot of money doesn't mean they're an Equinox quality client. Because you have somebody who would pay you a lot of money, but they're now expecting the world of something that they don't really even know how to get. So they're never trusting the process. Does that make sense? So yeah, Planet Fitness clients right now, that's what I'm seeing. Equinox quality clients. Okay, cool. Yeah, just know that people are not going to just, out of nowhere change your identity. And so online, I just want to stress this one more time. You guys could have all the marketing in the world. You could be showing up, you could be talking about fitness, you could do all these things, but if you're actually not marketing the right person, your time will be wasted. So obviously, which one of these clients are you? Ask yourself a question. Are you the person who knows what you want? Are you the person who is clear and you're looking for that 10% solution? Does that make sense? Because a lot of times you have to ask yourself, when you're a client of somebody's, are you looking for that person to save your life? Or are you looking for an expert to help you solve that 10% that you value most and you're willing to pay a premium for it? And that's really a maturity thing, right? That's when I bring up this 5 stages of awareness. You've got to remember that if you don't know where somebody is on the 5 stages of awareness, you don't really know if they're an EQUINOX quality client or a Planet Fitness client, because you haven't walked them through why they'd be looking at you as the premium option. Does that make sense? And so it's just really important for you guys to understand this, because I see this over and over again. It's just mistake after mistake. And so let's kind of dive into the identity indicators today. So once again, if you guys are marketing to people who are avoiding something, that is a Planet Fitness client. If you're focusing on somebody who's finding or looking for a specific solution, that is an EQUINOX quality client. And so Planet Fitness client, once again, they're thinking everything's a scam. They have a lot of problems in a lot of areas of life. So guys, if you guys are marketing to like a lot of pain, so if you're exhausted, if you've tried every diet, if you've done all these things and nothing has worked for you, that's the wrong marketing. That is a Planet Fitness quality person, right? If you want somebody who's unmotivated, that's a Planet Fitness client, right? So I see a lot of people marketing, they're talking about all the problems their clients have. Guys, the people with money, they don't have tons of problems. They have their entire life handled, and fitness is the only problem they're trying to solve. And they cannot handle the fact that they're like a badass in all the areas of their life, and then fitness, they're not doing well. And so that's more the client you're looking for than the person who's just like victim mentality, they're negative, they're exhausted. So I see a lot of people who are like, have you tried this? Does everything suck? Like, are you exhausted? And guys, this is not a client you're looking for, right? Nobody who's high value is experiencing only pain. Does that make sense? I see this all the time. And so remember, the kind of clients you guys want, they have specific goals and specific problems. They're looking for the right solution. And so sometimes like people say, well, Sameem, does someone need to lose 100 pounds to be an EQUINOX quality client? No. I've had online fitness clients who literally are like, Sameem, I want to build 10 pounds of muscle this year. And that's so painful for them not to have 10 pounds more muscle. And they're so annoyed by it that that person would pay $30,000 for mentorship or whatever. And it's because they hate the idea that they're succeeding in other areas of their life, but this one area they can't. Whereas, guys, somebody could have 100 pounds to lose and they're a Planet Fitness client, but the 100 pounds isn't because their identity is like, oh, I need to be this badass that I am. It's because they're a victim. Ultimately, that's why they're 100 pounds overweight. So guys, it's not always like the person with the most problems that will pay the most. And I bring this up because I see this a lot. You guys, I see so many people thinking, well, Sameem, the only person who's going to pay a premium, they've got to be in a lot of pain. And it's just not true, right? Because if you go to EQUINOX, people have to pay $200, $300 a month to go there. Is it because they're in a lot of pain? No, it's because they desire a certain experience. They desire a certain way of life. Does that make sense? Whereas somebody could lose, somebody could have 100 pounds to lose and their life is a mess. And that doesn't mean they value it just because they're in pain. Does that make sense? And so I want to make this shift for everybody because it's just not the right way to approach looking for clients. Because what you guys think is painful for one person may not be painful at all for somebody else. And so it's about figuring out the right pain for the right person, right? But primarily, insight is going to be what those people with money are looking for, not like their life is in shambles. Does that make sense? So guys, I'm going to bring up homework today. So I'm going to drop at the end of this call a pretty much piece of homework. And I want everybody to work on, this homework and drop it in the chat. So drop it in the Facebook group. Basically, the homework is, I want you guys to write down, what are your identity indicators? Like, what are the kind of, what are the kind of things that you want to avoid? So what are the kind of clients you don't want, which is going to be the Planet Fitness clients versus what are the EQUINOX quality clients that you want? And I want to figure out what are the insights of your specific client. And then also maybe what are the kind of clients you've been speaking to that are not the clients you want? And I want you guys to fill this out because the fact of the matter is you guys are speaking to people who have way more problems than they are looking for solutions, which is the wrong person. And so that's pretty much the first part of this process. Whenever you guys are marketing to a client, remember that when you're an online fitness consultant, let's say you've got 4 or 5 pillars, right? Let's say you've got fitness, you've got training part, you've got nutrition, you've got all these different elements that could create an offer, correct? But all of your clients, like what if your EQUINOX quality client only has a nutrition problem or they only have a training problem? Would you market the same way to that person? Probably not. And so I want you guys to all think, what is the ideal client you want? And I want you to fill out the identity indicators of what is the identity of the person you want. And put on the left side the identity of the person who you've been speaking to, and you're thinking, man, is this an EQUINOX quality client? Probably not. Or if you have, on the EQUINOX level client side, I want you to type in the identities that you do like, or maybe you have been speaking to, and kind of put it side by side and say, am I speaking to more EQUINOX or Planet Fitness, right? And this may not be perfectly clear yet, but this is a big reason why a lot of my clients have success in the program and what we do. It's because we really focus on a few key identities and a few key problems versus on 5 or 10 fitness problems and all the pain. And that's really going to affect your long-term retention. So if anybody has any questions, definitely drop it in the group, but I'm going to drop a link to this homework and let everybody do it so that on tomorrow, I want to see what you guys put down. I want to see what you guys have been currently marketing to, if anything at all. And guys, this could be for your in-person business or your online business. Obviously, I'm teaching you guys how to transition online, but if you guys are attracting Planet Fitness clients in person, it's probably the same reason. And so, yeah, I want to kind of talk about, really what's the biggest takeaway. So everybody drop that in the comments. And yeah, so I bring all this up because at the end of the day, guys, you have to understand your communication is key. LinkedIn is very powerful. That's where you find them. But you guys could post all day on LinkedIn. You could post all day on Facebook, post all day on Instagram. But if your identity is not matching the type of client you want, then you're never going to get the client you want. And it doesn't have to be just you guys looking the part. I see a lot of people who look the part who communicate incorrectly. And it's really, really important, guys, that when you guys have an online offer, you're not just showing up. And like, man, why aren't people buying? Because guys, here's the fact, you don't have to motivate EQUINOX quality clients. And I want to share that with everybody because I think people think, well, my clients need to be motivated. Guys, I've never had to motivate like a really premium online fitness line before. They had the drive and the identity. So ask yourself, as an entrepreneur, are you someone who needs to be motivated? Probably not. You guys want to win and achieve because it's a part of your identity. So nobody has to motivate you. Ultimately, they have to help you figure out what you want to figure out. And so when it comes to clientele, I share this because the first key part of our method and why we've been so successful at helping people actually do well on LinkedIn is that, once again, for the millionth time, your clients are not looking for you to be their entire savior for all their problems. They're not looking for you to be like the most muscular, jacked, coolest coach. They're looking for you to help identify one problem and one solution. And if you guys want a higher ticket client, instead of trying to like market to like the whole identity, think of what are the 1 or 2 problems this one person has and why am I the best and only option? And if you can understand that, you guys don't have to be like the fitness expert that everyone's like, oh man, he's motivating me. You've got to be the person they perceive as similar. Like they need to see CEO to CEO. And as soon as they perceive you as a CEO and they see that you understand their actual problems and you can give insights into 1 or 2 pieces of those problems, they will flock to you. Compared to like, let's say the online trainer who's like, hey guys, are you not drinking enough water? Or hey guys, you should, here's how you count your macros. It's not about like, how can you make them like you? It's how can you meet them based on who they really are and solve just one problem for them. And if you can do that on the 1 or 2 most important problems, they'll believe everything else you do makes sense for them. But if you guys are trying to convince them to be somebody they're not, or motivate them to all these different problems they have, they're never going to see you as understanding their core drivers and desires. And so I know super long rants and there's a lot to be said about this, but guys, you're not trying to sell everybody. You want literally like a handful of people. And what that does is that will then bring in testimonials of people like that. That will then build your actual authority in this market, because the more people can see you as that, as like them, and the more you can solve their true problems, the more likely you are to continue to get clients like that and stand out as the expert long-term. So that is all for today. Any questions in the chat? Drop any questions here. So Eldred said his ideal client would corporate wellness clients, mid-career professionals. Cool. What questions do you guys have? Any questions for today? Obviously, we've got 2 more days. There's a lot more to be said about this, but are you speaking to the identity of the right person? And it's not a million people. It's not all these problems. That's not what gets a client like this. Scott goes, yes, 10 premium clients will change your situation, learning how to consistently do it. Let's see, same time tomorrow. Yes, these are same time tomorrow. Let's see. Jacqueline said, ideal lifestyle client, forever long-term client, disposable income. Very cool. Scott, I don't need to fish. I need to learn how to fish. Totally, Scott. I get it, man. Yeah, I mean, Cliff, honestly, man, being lazy with your language is a big deal. Like, guys, remember that like you're not having to just show up as much as possible. I see this as a big issue. And here's the fact, the more you show up and say the wrong things, you're turning off those people. And I'm not saying it's bad to show up and be a leader and be of value, but remember, say less of the right things and then show people why you understand them better than who else is out there. That wins. And then when you combine that with attention, that's where success really, kind of becomes full circle. And so I want today's like takeaway, which Cliff nailed it, is don't be lazy with your language, guys. It's not about just pain. It's not about just showing up. And it's not about thinking that an ideal client wants you to solve 5 problems. They probably don't. They probably only want 1 thing solved or 2 things solved that mean a lot to them. And they're willing to pay thousands of dollars to solve that. And here's what's also interesting. The clients who actually pay a lot of money, they already had experience. And so a lot of times I see people, they're thinking, oh, my client, they've never touched a barbell. They've never done this. That's very unlikely. Most of your clients who are going to pay you a lot of money, they've been doing it in some capacity. And they're looking for that person to take them that 10%. But that 10%, they'll pay a lot of money for. Does that make sense? And so I bring this up because I think sometimes people are marketing and they're thinking, oh, if I can show somebody how I can solve all these problems, I'll get into the client. Very, very few times that actually happens. It's how do they see you as someone who gives them a small adjustment, not a massive overhaul, because nobody believes that. People believe that small adjustments, right? So your ideal client, let's say the LinkedIn quality or Equinox quality client, they're going to be like, oh man, I never realized that I did this the wrong way or this small adjustment. They're going to respond to tiny adjustments, not big pain-based statements. And so I'll dive into this more and more, but I just want everyone to remember that you need to always consider the quality of your communication and what are the 1 to 2 actual core problems you solve and nothing more. Don't try to solve 15 problems for people because it will confuse them, it will overwhelm them, and it'll make them go, this isn't what I'm experiencing. And people are looking to be communicated at the level at which they're experiencing a problem. And so that is all for today. So if you guys have any questions, drop it in the chat, but we will go deeper. I'm going to drop the link to that identity indicator worksheet for you guys to fill out, and then just post it in the group. I want to kind of see, the homework from today, and we'll dive into it. Let's see. More questions. Anything else? All right, looking through here, see if I missed anything. But yeah, so let me pull it up. This is from Sarah. Questions: how to cast the line and catch Equinox quality clients? What software and apps use to deliver programming remote? So, Sarah, it just depends. Like, obviously, that's like the fulfillment side. You can always use like Trainerize, you can always use PD Distinction, but these are a very small piece of it, right? I want you to remember that once you get these clients, it's not about having the perfect system. It's almost like, I see this all the time, this is what kills me in the marketing space. I see coaches who are like, become a better coach so you'll get better clients. And it's just ass backwards. And so the reason I bring this up for you is that like, yes, Trainerize is important. The way you fulfill it is one thing, but you just have to actually get this kind of client first. And they're actually a pretty normal client. There is stuff you can do, but it's more about attracting the right client, which actually builds your business, right? Those clients get results. And so when those clients get results, it makes you look good. Even if you're not having to reinvent the entire wheel for them. There are definite things you have to do to sustain a higher quality fulfillment, but it's not as important as once you get that client, building a system from them. And so it just depends, but I'd say Trainerize, PD Distinction, those are all fine to start with and go from there. Cliff, do you have a specific structure for your posts on LinkedIn that are different from the other platforms? Yeah, Cliff, actually, there have been some big changes in LinkedIn recently, where they have a new live process that's going to be that we're rolling out in our program, but there's a certain sequence to it that we have to follow. Otherwise, it's not going to be very effective. But I'd say video content works really well for LinkedIn, but it still depends on communication. So we'll be diving into that more. Mr. Eldred said, can you release a recorded version of each webinar? Yeah, I definitely will. It's going to be in the group. So let's see. Scott said, how to distinguish yourselves from constant spam, even on LinkedIn? It's amazing to have people reaching out to me. Yeah, Scott, ultimately, I'm telling you right now, your language has to be better, right? Your marketing has to be better. And then you need a system for follow-up, right? So obviously, what are you saying, which is important, right? Are you speaking to the right person? And is your offer sound? And then B, when you are communicating, are you able to get the attention of those people, which is the second part, which is we're going to dive into. But yeah, guys, we're going to dive into way more tomorrow. Basically, we're going to dive more into different aspects of like how to actually make this work on the actual communication side. So, stay tuned, but this will be in the group for now. And then if you guys have any questions, like please let me know in the meantime, and I will answer them. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here today. Anything else, always drop it in the group and I'll dive into it. But I just want to stress more and more and more that your language, and if you're extremely pain-based or insight-based, determines the kind of client you get. And the more insight-based you get, the more clear you're on your offer, and the more you're in front of the right people, the less you guys have to use pain and showing up more and consistency, and the more people are going to reach out to you because your language is correct. So, yeah, Cliff, I appreciate you too, man. Jacqueline, thank you. Scott, thank you as well, man. But yeah, guys, looking forward to tomorrow, and I will see you soon.